If you think Halloween is a uniquely American tradition, have we got a trick for you. Dressing up in a creative costume, gallivanting around in the gathering dusk to collect the best candy from the neighbors and getting together with friends for a monster ball are all beloved traditions. But the fall holiday didn't start stateside at all. In fact, the history of Halloween dates back thousands of years to the Celtic celebration of Samhain, a hallowed festival that marked the end of the harvest season and welcomed in the new year. Samhain was also a time when the veil between the worlds of the living and the dead grew thin, so those of us with blood still running through our veins could communicate with loved ones who had passed on to the other side. Whether or not you believe in things that go bump in the night, it's always fun to learn a little something before you go trick or treating. You may realize the holiday has a much more interesting backstory than you thought. Travel back in time with us to learn what some of the very first ghostly celebrations of Halloween looked like, including the various ghoulies and ghosties people used to fear, what people used to carve in place of pumpkins, and even what Valentine's Day and Halloween have in common. We can guarantee there wasn't a glitter pumpkin or superhero costume in sight. And if you just can't get enough, we've got plenty more Halloween trivia where that came from. Who celebrated Halloween first? Most scholars agree that Halloween as we know it originated some 2,000 years ago, when Celtic people in Europe celebrated the end of the harvest and the start of a new year in a festival called Samhain, pronounced Samhain. People also believed they could commune with the dead more easily during that time, lighting big bonfires to ward off spirits. According to the American Folklife Center, Halloween has a dark spiritual history. The Celts also believed that the spiritual communication on Samhain made it easier for Celtic priests, or druids, to predict the future, according to history. To appease the deities, they built bonfires and sacrificed crops and animals. Villagers also attended the bonfire ceremonies wearing animal heads and skins as costumes. Bats are a Halloween symbol. Nowadays, many of us associate bats with Halloween, and that has its historical roots, too. The Druids' Samhain bonfires attracted bugs which, in turn, tempted bats to come enjoy a tasty meal. In later years, various folklore emerged citing bats as harbingers of death or doom. In Nova Scotian mythology, a bat settling in a house means a man in the family will die. If it flies around and tries to escape, a woman in the family will perish instead. Romans had their own fall festivals. The Romans conquered most Celtic territory by 43 AD and brought their own fall festivals with them at that time, according to history. Their October celebration called Feralia also commemorated the passing of the dead. Another holiday, Pomona, honored the Roman goddess of fruit and trees. That's one reason people often bob for apples during Halloween festivities. The British set out ghostly gifts. Despite the new religious focus, people in Old England and Ireland continued to associate the end of October with the wandering dead. They set out gifts of food to mollify hungry spirits, and as time wore on, people began dressing in creepy costumes to go begging for the treats themselves. The practice was called mumming, and looked pretty similar to today's trick or treating. They set out gifts of food to mollify hungry spirits, and as time wore on, people began dressing in creepy costumes to go begging for the treats themselves. The practice was called mumming, and looked pretty similar to today's trick or treating. The southern colonies brought it stateside. The first Halloween-like festivities in America started in the southern colonies. People began to celebrate the harvest, swap ghost stories, and even tell each other's fortunes, likely a holdover from their countries of origin. However, those early fall festivals were known as play parties at the time. Women bobbed for apples, and husbands. In the 1700s and 1800s, women performed rituals on Halloween in hopes of finding a husband. Single ladies used to throw apple peels over their shoulders, hoping to see their future husband's initials in the shapes where they fell. They also competitively bobbed for apples at parties, believing the winner would marry first. And in a ritual that just sounds downright creepy, some thought standing in a dark room with a candle in front of a mirror would make their future husband's face appear in the glass. Blood Mary, anyone? Americans spend a lot on candy. Trick-or-treating skyrocketed in popularity by the 1950s, when Halloween became a true national event. Today, over 179 million Americans celebrate the holiday, and spend about $9.1 billion annually in the process, according to the National Retail Federation. That's a lot of miniature candy bars. Halloween is not an official holiday. Many Americans love Halloween wholeheartedly, but the day isn't a federal holiday. Despite all of the festivities that happen in the evening, Halloween is still a work day and most businesses and banks follow their regular hours. So if you're rushing home to answer your doorbell, you're certainly not the only one.